We naturally live inside of our design. If you look back on your most profitable, and when I say profitable, it is always multi-layered. That's mental, emotional, energetically, and financially. Decision, that was you naturally being in your design.
Welcome to Conscious Conversations with Amy Woodall and the Collective. I'm Amy Woodall, and we are so happy that you have landed here with us today. The whole premise of this show was to create a bridge between the seekers and the teachers. And in Conscious Conversations, we simply want to talk about real aspects of life that we are all faced with. The joys, the triumphs, the challenges, the stuck points, whether that's at work or at home or in the world at large. I believe that everyone who is listening to this show really gives a damn about being a good human from the inside out. And we want to bring you conversations that matter and help you do just that. If you are a leader, a business owner, or you are just a professional out there who has felt a little spun up at times, maybe exhausted by the constant change or the need to make instant decisions, this is going to be such an impactful conversation for you. I encourage you to take the time to listen more than once, share it with people that you think might find this helpful too, because our guest today, Mel McSherry, is going to help us better understand not just how to operate from our most aligned self, utilizing the system of human design and sharing those insights with us, but also how we can integrate this into other aspects of our life. We are whole humans. We are not just leaders or just executives or just business owners. We are whole people who take our whole ass self everywhere that we go. And I'm really excited to dig into this concept of what does sustainable energy look like. Mel, welcome.
Thank you so much, Amy. I'm so excited to have this conversation with you.
Yeah, me too. And I think we've talked about human design before on the show. I think this is a chance for us to really dig into what are the different ways that we can lead and live from this section. And so we'll get into the, hey, remind us what human design is in case any of our listeners missed that. But I'd love to just start off with what guided you to this work, because I think for each of us, when we're really damn good at what we do, it's because we operate out of integrity of the message, meaning we had to live it first before we could teach it from a place of true authenticity. So what led you to do this work in the world?
Yeah, absolutely. So I like to say human design found me. I've been an entrepreneur for nearly 16 years now. I started in 2010. And when human design found me, I was such in an interesting space in my business because I, on paper, was killing it. I was making the six figures. I was traveling all over the place. I was, showing the lifestyle and all these things. And internally felt fraud is probably a bit of a harsh word to use for myself, but it was along those lines of a disconnect because I had built that through someone else's expectations and someone else's frameworks. And I never truly took the time to A, understand or B, trust my natural instincts and my natural frameworks because we're taught so often to just seek out the expert, to copy and paste. And again, I did that and I did that well. And when human design found me, it was at my very first spiritual retreat in Sedona, Arizona.
The best
It was
place.
right? I
So
mean, who
good.
doesn't have a
So
religious
good.
experience in Sedona,
Yeah.
Arizona, whether you're looking for it or not?
hmm
Um, and it was in 2020, and unbeknownst to me, 2 weeks before lockdown here in the Chicago area. And for those of us who were in Chicago, we were in lockdown for a while. And I went into it finding myself, trying to find myself, because again, I never took the time to explore who I am. I always ask somebody else, what do you see? How can you help me? So on and so forth. And it's so funny because I remember journaling before I showed up going, okay, I want to make sure that why aren't I seen? Why aren't I heard? I feel like I'm being forgotten. Why is nobody da 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 da? So during the 4 days that we were there, I think it was day 2, somebody had brought up human design, and it had been brought forward to me before, and I did the quick, test that you can do online. I read my type and went, "Oh, yeah, nope, that tracks." But I didn't feel a pull to go any deeper. It wasn't that connection to where I was like, this might be it." However, this time, I really took the time to deep dive into my chart. And I remember the first night sitting on this huge bed, reading my chart and just breaking down crying because it was me. And I had never read something that was me. I had seen myself in people's stories, I had seen myself in strategies and structures. However, this was just like, Mel, remember that? Why you aren't being seen and heard? Oh, it's because of this. Oh, it's coming from here. Oh, instead, let's do this. And it gave me first the validation and confirmation of what I knew to be true of my how. I love to say that human design is the why behind your how. And it gave me the awareness of where I went too far or where I didn't even start to begin with because I didn't have that trust. And when I came home from that retreat, I didn't tell anybody about human design at first because I like you just said in the beginning, I wanted to live it first. I've never even back when I was in the fitness industry, I would always try out workouts and try out things first on myself before I even mentioned them to clients. And I did the same with human design. I quietly started implementing it in my life and business all throughout 2020 and 2021. And then 2022, I started being a little bit louder about it because every fiber in my being was, you need to share this. Entrepreneurs, especially, like, you need to show them how badass they already are and how worthy they are, how strong they are, how capable they are. And they just don't know it because they haven't taken the time to look at themselves and to be seen not only by themselves, but be truly seen and guided by somebody who sees them for them. Not, oh, this is my angle, this is my da 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 da. And so in 2022, I started asking some trusted individuals if I could do a reading for them because I didn't know how this was going to be. I didn't know if it was readings that I love to do. There's so many different applications. And I just got I got obsessed. It was so beautiful to be able to be in a space with somebody that is so intimate and so personal and have them watch them with their shoulders drop and then just going, "Oh, oh, duh, like, thank you. Thank you." And be like, "Why are you thanking me? This is you." And so in 2023, I came out of the spiritual closet on LinkedIn, started talking about human design as well as the other non-traditional practices that I use in partnership with traditional business and personal development tools. And it's just been a growing evolution since because every single one of us has the capacity, has the authority to create the business, the money, and the life that we want. It's the overwhelm that we get caught up in and what we should do, or the expectations that we were trained to think were our goals. And as we are shifting into this new energy, which we are all feeling at this point, I know that we'll dive a lot deeper into that in this conversation. It's that coming back to yourself, probably for the first time, and building that bridge between your trust and your success, your intuition and your action, and creating it for yourself by not by yourself, as in you're not with somebody, but by the knowledge and the excitement that you know where this is rooted and where this is coming from.
What a gift for people. I think this space to even reflect, like, am I operating based on what I know is most truly aligned with my unique blueprint? Or am I operating based on what corporate America has told me, what I've seen other entrepreneurs do? And we do often learn their social proof is, a really high influencer and motivator in our lives by watching other people who are similar to us and then using that as knowledge. But it doesn't necessarily mean that we're operating aligned with ourselves. And I think then we beat ourselves up because we think there's something wrong with me. Why can't I just get it together? Why can't I be more disciplined? Why can't I be like them? And then we start to judge ourselves against other people who are maybe able to operate seemingly more aligned with those shoulds, wherever they come from. So, what a gift for people to reflect. If someone is operating out of alignment with their human design. And again, we may have touched on this before, but it doesn't mean we've got to hear these things several times for us to really integrate it. I wish we could hear things once and we're like, great, now I live it in my
Done.
life. No.
Right.
If someone's living out of alignment with their human design, this unique blueprint for themselves, how would they know that? What are kind of the symptoms of the deeper problem?
It's a great question. So, probably the two bigger ones, and these are inside of human design, there is actually a not self signature, which is your specific ping that you have gone too far. And I do want to say this first. We naturally live inside of our design. If you look back on your most profitable, and when I say profitable, it is always multi layered. That's mental, emotional, energetically, and financially. Decision, that was you naturally being in your design. However, when we go too far or start too soon, we have these moments of bitterness, of frustration, of overwhelm, or how I felt it was I almost felt like there were two versions of me. There was frontal Mel, who was female identified, women business owner, you know, there all the time, networking a million miles a minute. And then internal Mel going, I don't want to see people today. I like it was this battle almost. And it wasn't to something to where it was completely disruptive, but it consistently went on in the background. And like those apps that go in the background that drain your phone unknowingly, it was that same concept of why am I so exhausted? Why is this, and hard wasn't even the right word, but why isn't this simple? Why isn't this fluid? And so when you feel like there's this disconnect or you feel kind of like this start stop, that is a really beautiful indicator that, again, you have either started too soon for some or for others have gone too far. And with your human design, you find those natural boundaries for yourself. And again, you know them. When I have a reading with somebody, nobody ever goes, I'm sorry, what? Everybody goes, thank you. I knew it. But now I have the vernacular to advocate because I have the proof, right? But those feelings are your system going, oh no, wait, or let's take a minute. And again, if you go back and when you go back to how those more profitable spaces, partnerships, clients, and so forth came forward, you will see your design in natural action.
I think what this reminds me of is if we are operating purely from the mind, then we tend to have a lot of challenges. And, I think that life feels a little bit harder when we're not honoring the energetic information or like the energetic truth, which is also the spiritual truth. I love that you said you came out of the spiritual closet. I use that term all the time. When I speak at conferences and I share often about books that changed my life, like The Untethered Soul and, different writings out there. And then they'll become somebody comes up who's like, hey, I meditate too. And I'm like, why are you whispering? You should
Right?
tell the room, like, come out of the spiritual
Yeah.
closet. It's okay. But when we're tapped into that, so I'm sure when you show that to people, that what it is doing is giving them a confirmation of their energetic alignment that maybe they had never seen or felt comfortable leaning into because they were operating so much from the mind, which is often, a mirror of the world around us. So what a gift it is to step into that. And I'm guessing, is yours projector? What's your
I
style?
am a projector.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you, for the audience sake, in case human design is brand new for them, can you just give a very quick overview of what are the styles and maybe just a quick description of each of those?
Yeah. So human design is a culmination of astrology, I Ching, Kabbalah, chakras, and quantum physics. I call human design the ultimate onion of personal development because there's many layers. In fact, the person who brought it all together says it takes an average of 7 years for you to fully incorporate your design, which I love because that already shifts the pace from here's the 60 things you can do in 60 seconds to make 60K to, oh, hi, you. Let's spend time with ourselves and really play and experiment and understand what this is. With that said, the overarching type is your energetic type, and there's 5 of them. So there is generator, which is 70% of the population. Generators have copious amounts of energy. Some people like to coin them the worker bees. I don't exactly like that because it sounds very workhorsey. Generators are just, I like to call them the structure. They're the ones that can see the plan and then follow through with that response of, ooh, and then we can go here and we can go there. And they have the energy to consistently be inside of that structure. However, the interesting thing about generators is that they have a stair step style of success, which means they are here to master. And when they have mastered everything inside of that moment, they're going to hit a plateau and a pausing point. And for a lot of generators, that is very frustrating because they feel like they've been on a roll and why isn't this working? Oh, it's not a time to be frustrated. It's a time to celebrate because you've mastered everything inside of that. So it's time to reflect, to recalibrate, and as a generator, your strategy is wait to respond, as well as know thyself. So it's that invitation to, again, reflect, know thyself, and then with that, wait for information for what that next stair step looks like with those things that you have mastered. Inside of generators, there's a sub context called a manifesting generator, and that's actually half of all generators are manifesting generators. So, manifesting generators have the energy of the generator and the magic of a pure manifester. And those are my multifaceted, always inspired, some people may say ADHD clients. They are the ones where if somebody looked at you and said, could you just focus on one thing and you want to punch them in the face? That's my Manny Gens. You are not meant to just be doing one thing at a time. You are those gorgeous, energetic souls who can be in many places fully and wholly and bounce throughout each one. Sometimes they tend to feel like, they feel like that they're flighty or they feel like that they can't commit to things. But then when they see that, no, 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 it's not a lack of commitment, it's a shift in where you need to focus. That means you've mastered everything inside of that bucket. So it's time to let that bucket simmer. And where is your energy being pulled to now that you can go to that bucket? And the through line is you. And the way to really ensure that you are being in spaces and places that are the most profitable for you, again, that's multi level profitability, is to inform people what you see because you see so many things and you want to do so many things. It's not out of permission of like, hey, do you think this is a good idea? It's more of that word vomit soundboard. I have an amazing friend and several clients. I attract a lot of Manny Gens, and I use Voxer as one of my tools to support my clients in between sessions. My Manny Gens love Voxer because then they can just all of the things for 5 to 15 minutes and then from there can see actually what they can pluck out of it. So it's not necessarily for somebody to give them feedback, it's for them to get it out of their head and then just go, "Oh, wait a minute, I see it. Thank you," and then move on. As we continue down, the next is projector. Again, that's what I am. So we're moving away from these super, super energetic beings to my not so energetic being. As a projector, we have no natural energy. In fact, we receive energy from others, which can turn into very unknown burnout because we glean it from so many people. I definitely have experienced this several times that we don't understand how to rest and expel it when it's not ours. So, projectors have a different pace than manifesting generators and generators. We have about 2 to 4 hours of natural energy where we can quote unquote work inside of, but we are the guides. I like to call ourselves like the Holy Spirits of the group. Like we observe, we see, we're the project manager esque guides, and we are here to ask questions and to help you find the answers. And our strategy is called wait for to be recognized and the invitation. And I'm just going to say this as well. What's really interesting is that 90% of us are designed to wait. And as an entrepreneur, a lot of us go, I'm sorry, what? Like, that's not what I'm taught to do. I'm taught to initiate, I'm taught to follow up. No, most of us are designed to wait for more information to respond to, or wait to be recognized and invited. After projector, we have a pure manifester. These are the initiators. These are the ones that don't wait. These are the ideators.
Those are the 10%.
Yeah, that's the
Gotcha.
10% where they're like, hey, I see this thing. And their strategy is pure inform. Now, the interesting thing about manifestors is that when I mentioned, going too far, manifestors try to then initiate and follow through what their idea is because they have the energy, they have the idea. But again, that's not their MO. Their MO is to share what they see, to share what they know. And from there, have the manifesting generators and the generators whose main purpose is the follow through to take that idea and go, okay, put structure to it, put the funnels to it, put the creativity to it. And then the manifestor can just lean back and wait until they are needed for that next idea or for that next solution. And then last but not least is my 1% reflectors. Reflectors are the barometer of the collective. They're above the projectors. They see the entire energy of the collective. They feel the energy of the collective, and through that are able to understand how they can best be a part of it or shift it to a better frequency. The interesting thing about reflectors is that their strategy is wait 28 days to make any major decision.
That's really some time. Okay. And very specific. So a moon cycle. They've got to wait a whole moon
Exactly.
cycle.
Yep.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Interesting.
And I've worked with several very successful in every definition that they deem that term success, who are reflectors because they have adjusted their pace of how they are inside of their business. And I really feel that is one of the first awarenesses I see when I do a reading with somebody is the awareness of their pace and how it typically goes way faster than how much they actually have. And there's a little bit of a disagreement. I know for me, being trained as a generator or a manifesting generator to a projector, that guilt was strong those first couple of years of just like from going from 6-7 meetings a day to 2 to 3 meetings a day, from networking every single day to networking twice a month, to speaking 2 or 3 times a week to once a week, a couple times a month. But again, when I really looked back at my business and looked at what were my most profitable decisions, it was because it was invitations from somebody who heard me on something else, or it was somebody who came forward who was, respectfully stalking me on social media, and they finally felt the call and had the capacity to spend time with me. And so it's within that we find our true sustainability, not only energetically, but emotionally as well, because from there you learn what your authority is, how you make your best decisions. And it's all of those layers of information that help you retract from that instant emotional reaction, whatever that may be. And we've been through a lot of them this year so far, and the ripple effect will be felt for a bit, to, ooh, okay, I know I feel this. I now know with this information how to best process it. So I am making my most profitable decisions for myself, for my partner, for my life, for my business, and so forth.
Ladies, imagine taking time away to work on you. Meditation, yoga, transformational work, a chance to have grand adventures and build lasting relationships. Desiree Garcia and I founded High Vibe Tribe Retreats to create just that. And if you're curious about joining us on our next retreat, head over to highvibetriberetreat.com, link in the show notes. It sounds like it's such an unlearning, and the work we do in Conscious Habit is we help, part of the framework that we teach is helping people understand their ego's MO and what their ego has its worthiness wrapped around so that we can learn how to put ego in service rather than in competition, right? Because if we think that, like, for example, one of the ego styles is the high achiever ego, and the high achiever thinks I have to continuously prove I'm successful or make more money, get the title in order to be loved, respected, and valued. And for some of us, maybe it's the people pleaser ego of like, I can't say no to people because I earn my value through other people valuing my help, or perfectionistic ego. And so, with this wrapping the human design into that work, it really is an unlearning because it's going to press the ego's buttons if we're told we have to breathe, we've got to pause, we need to change pace. The high achiever is going to go, but I can't. People are going to see me as lazy. Being busy equals being important. And the people pleaser is going to say, but that means I'm going to have to tell people no, and I can't do that. Like I think it's going to trigger some of those fears we've built on this external validation that comes from our doing. Whenever we lean into our being more naturally, it does press those triggers of our, conditioned doing. And so for you, are you still in the you are still in the 7-year period. Where do you feel like you are in your own evolution of how long did it take, I should say, for that guilt to go away or that fear of judgment of self or others to kind of acclimate for you?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I would say it did take me a couple of years to go back a little bit further. It took about a year to get real with it for myself, and then another year to express it to others and not feel the afterwards, right? Because there's when we do things for ourselves and we implement things quietly, it is easier because there's no we're hard enough on ourselves already. But we to take away that outside what we think is going to be outside judgment does give yourself a little bit more permission to play inside of it. And I will say now from where I started to where I am now at the end of 2025, I am in a place where I I'm in awe now of these shifts. When you were talking about the ego, one of the spaces I love to spend time on with my clients that comes up often is inside of their centers. So that your centers are in alignment with 9 different chakras, and they are either open, which means they are receivers or receptors, or they are defined, which means they have a process to it. For me, out of the 9 centers, I only have 2 defined. So, with that said, I feel a lot of things. I see a lot of things. I hear a lot of things. I have pressure to know. I have a lot of interesting pressures that come up in my system. And for a lot of us, when we don't know that about ourselves, we actually use those open centers as defined. And that's where we tend to get ourselves tripped up. When I mentioned earlier that I was, so worried and so concentrated on wanting to be heard, wanting to be seen, wanting to prove my value, that was my open throat and my open heart talking. And I took those as props to put into action as opposed to, ooh, I'm in a not self space, is what we call it in human design. Where do I need to go to filter those emotions down? And as an emotional authority, which means I need to ride the emotional wave before clarity comes, process it through and then see what actually that came from. Was it mine or was it somebody else's? Is there something to learn in here, or was it just and now we're done, right? And so because I now know that and it's on autopilot for the most part, I'm now this space of, ooh, okay, we are now in a new identity shift for myself and for my business. Because as an open identity, I am consistently evolving and in a different way because we all evolve, obviously. But it's at a different capacity and a different awareness than somebody who has a defined identity. And instead of berating myself or being mad at myself about it, it's exciting. It's ooh, okay, here we go. Now what layers is going to be triggered? Because they're going to be triggered. We are constantly healing and learning. And because I now know so much deeper in my practices and in my process when it comes through the lens of human design, now what do I get to learn? Now what do I get to get to see and get to absorb and get to experiment in. So it slowly but surely shifts from that son of a bitch, are you kidding me? To, ooh, oh, okay. Let's let's play. Let's experiment. Let's see where this next level and what this new sense of self is going to bring to me mentally, emotionally, energetically, and financially.
I think there's 2 things I really wanna pull out of that share there. The price of getting more okay with ourselves is being okay when others aren't. Like, that's such a process of this, and what we're really looking for, many of us, like, yes, we might be like, "I wanna increase my profit. I wanna scale. I wanna grow, whatever. Yes, I understand that that's the ripple effect, but what we all truly are searching for is learning how to feel more okay internally. We often just think those external things are gonna give us that, and they don't, and so we just keep adding more, but we're all looking to really just feel like that big, within ourselves, and so the price of getting there is understanding yourself on a deeper at a deeper resonance outside of just your mind, really connecting in the body and the energetic body into that, and being okay when other people aren't okay with you. The second thing I would love to pull out for the audience is, do you hear how Mel talked about feeling your feelings? We don't think our feelings. And so when a feeling comes up, if the first place you're going is your head, we are not doing that feeling a service at all. In fact, we're likely making things more complicated. The feeling hasn't been felt, it's just been kind of falsely processed through the mind. And as we know, our issues are in our tissues. It just gets stuck somewhere in the body. It's going to come back over and over again until we really have a chance to deal with it. So I love that you mentioned, like, you do go to your body and you start to notice and then have a better process too based on your human design for where to seek answers and where to feel the feeling, where to kind of send the feeling to for greater insight, which is incredible. I mean, I didn't learn you were supposed to feel your feelings until I was almost 40. So,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, same. I was 38. So yeah.
Yeah. So, better late than never, as they say.
It's universal timing. I wasn't ready for it anyways.
Yeah, that's right. That's true. We learn everything in the exact time that we actually know what to do with it, that's so true. So I want to dig into just the nature of what many of us have been experiencing really in the last year, this whiplash of change. And many organizations are going through whether they're being bought. They have had to lay people off. There's so much fear of like, am I going to be next? And I know people in all sized companies, big and small, who are experiencing this kind of whiplash of change. And I asked you before we hit record, like, what seems to be trending right now and what do you want to dig into? And you mentioned this concept of sustainability. What does it look like to have this sustained kind of energy or pace when we've been overly reactive? So let's dig into that. What are you experiencing with people and what kind of insights or recommendations are you providing?
Yeah. So what I've been seeing a lot, and I will say this too, this shift that we are feeling immensely this year, I think a lot of us can agree started in 2020. 2020 was kind of that initiator of, ooh, the traditional things aren't really working. Why is that? And for some of us, like myself, felt called to go deeper into that. For others, it was just like, okay, I'm gonna just keep riding along and, figuring it out, right? But I think this is the year where even those people who just kind of were riding along and figuring out have hit that wall of, I can't anymore. If I hear one more breaking news or one more, because, and also we are in such an interesting space social media wise. If we wanted to, which I don't think any of us would, but however, if we wanted to, we could be inundated with overwhelming emotional news 24/7. And I know that for so many people, it's that, well, what can I do? Well, I want to be here. Well, I want to do this. Well, I want to help this person. And I need to be a partner. I need to be a parent. I need to be a business owner. It's this overwhelm unknown in so many areas. And a lot of us started really emotional, instant action. Let's do all the things
started kind of coming downhill, and now we're at burnout. Now we're at, I don't want to be on social. I don't like, I can't do nothing, but also I can't do anything right now because I've just been so reactionary. And people now are looking for, how do I find that middle ground? How do I find, first, rebuild that foundation of my energy, of, my community, my collective. What is it that I really want to be a part of and want to support and want to be vocal on? As well as, and then in other ways, how can I continue to be present for my partner, for my kids, for my family, for my friends? And human design is such a beautiful tool in that, because it first, again, gives you that quote unquote framework of, oh, you have a lot of energy, but just because you can doesn't mean you should. So if we layer on your open centers, right, or your defined centers, what is that information telling us of, if you are really open in emotional spaces, how can we keep that not protected, because we don't want to pull away from it, but safe and informative? And then from there, how can we turn that into an action step, if there is one, for ourselves? Or is there a quote unquote low energy, or is there another way to be supportive and impactful at the same time? And so, right now, with all of this, and again, this is going to be a ripple effect for a while. If you're in human design, we have what's called the solar plexus mutation of 2027. We're moving into a new shift in how we collaborate with each other, how we work. We're stepping away from those traditional structural frameworks to collaboration, communication, partnership, and so forth. Some people like to say shifting from masculine to feminine. Yes, that and so it's, how do you understand your capacity, your profitability as an individual that helps the collective as a whole. So we're moving away from, let's fix the community, let's be all of this as a group, which is beautiful, to, ooh, let's individually know ourselves, know our patterns, know our routines, know our processes, and then we can see how we actually fit together and strengthen each other as a whole. So it's been such an interesting conversation with people, my entrepreneurs. How are they shifting their offers? How are they shifting their calendars? For some, we haven't even talked about business. It's just been a space for them to figure out how to be a part of this collective in this current environment, and how to be profitable in all of the layers, as they are still finding themselves and building that trust between, like I mentioned earlier, their intuition and their action, as well as that bridge between, how do they honor themselves as a whole, but also with a sense of self. I think the really cool shift, and you're right, 2020 was this big, I don't want to say mass awakening, but maybe. I mean, I really do think that people who were already kind of on a trajectory of learning about themselves, it hit it an acceleration point as a means of survival, to say, there's so much change happening right now. I'm going to dig deeper into my own consciousness or this spiritual connection. And I see that many people were called to kind of do this work. And now what's happening are, the people who have done this self-reflection are being called to create communities. I am meeting people every single day who are building community, and it is a conscious calling. I mean, I think some people know that on a spiritual level, like that, like, oh, this is the shift that's happening on the planet. And listeners, this is, you've heard me say this. My personal belief is there's only one thing, and we're all it. Whether your belief is scientific or religious or spiritual, we're made from the same thing. Okay. You put whatever definition on it you want. Greater consciousness or wisdom is just being tapped into. It's not something that comes from our mind in particular. I really do think that it's almost an antenna that we kind of tap into. And so many people are being called to create community and come back together again, because we have spent a lot of time in this individualistic, space, as needed, to your point, to better understand ourselves. And it's really fascinating. I've been called to create something called Conscious Collective that is bringing people who are doing conscious work in the world together so that we have a space of people that we can openly talk about this stuff to and amplify our visions together and become a space where teachers and students get to come as a bridge to one another. So it's really interesting to just see this next evolution and how it's not just one or two or a dozen people. It is thousands of people who are answering the call. So I think the next couple of years are going to be incredibly important. And for our listeners to dig into work like this that allows them to move their decision making, not from the brain. Your brain is the least reliable source for truth. Remember that. Your mind is the least reliable source for truth. It's a little bitch. It will talk you into or out of anything. It's got the evidence waiting. Just tell it which
It
way to
doesn't
go.
even have an authority in
No,
human design. It's not even one of the
I love
authorities.
that.
Yeah.
I love that it's like, hey, guess what? Your mind is not the place to go for decisions. I can't remember if it was the Mayans. I know it was an ancient society who saw thinking as a sixth. It was one of the senses that were taught, that the mind was just it was a way, it was a sense. It was not the place. It was not an identity. So I think that's fascinating. But for our listeners to really move beyond just the mind, which I believe they are, that's why you're listening to this podcast, and get more tapped in with the energetic, spiritual, and physical body. And so, Mel, if people are hearing this for the first time, if they're unfamiliar with human design, but they're like, hey, I want to kind of live from my whole human and better understand myself, where's the best place for them to start?
Well, if they feel comfortable and have the capacity, I offer 30-minute virtual coffee chats just for that. Not It's not a sales call. It is an open space for you to ask me questions, to have a sounding board, to see and connect to a little bit deeper to human design and how it already supports you, but how you can connect deeper into it. And if you would like to spend time with me, you can book one of those at virtualcoffeewithmel.com, as well as follow me on social media. I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Instagram. And I will say this, there are many human design practitioners out there, which is amazing. And none of us are the same. So I always say, do your due diligence. And that's why I love virtual coffees, because you may initially think, ooh, Mel's the first person I heard. I want to spend time with them. And then you spend time with me and you go, okay, yes, mm, hold on, and you spend more time, and perhaps another practitioner comes in that is the person for you. And there's nothing wrong with that. We all bring amazing things to the table. But I will say, this isn't Instagrammable. This isn't something that you can just read once and go done, like you mentioned earlier. It is something that I highly suggest you take the time to seek out and to be patient in how you want to utilize this information. But again, know that you already live inside of your human design. It's just bringing to that awareness those starting and stopping points that are meant for you.
That's such a good reminder because I think even asking the question, how do people live outside of it? It's like, oh no, they really live in it. It's more giving themselves permission to step into it once we know? Is that kind of the sense that you get?
Yeah, it's that validation of, again, it's yeah. Oh, okay. I am right. This is how it's designed. So haha, now that I know for sure, I'm going to, bless and release this and welcome this in. So it is that operations manual that we didn't know that we were born with, that when we do find, it's not a sense of, oh, I did everything wrong this whole time. It's that sense of, oh, there it is. Beautiful. With that validation and confirmation, let's build off from there.
I love that. It kind of reminds me last week's theme with coaching clients. And I don't know, you probably feel this too, that there seems to be themes that come around again because we contain the whole. we, that people tend to be struggling with similar things at a similar time. And last week's, in coaching sessions with clients, this idea of swimming against the riptide kept coming up, where it's like whatever problems or challenges were coming, the challenge that clients were having was that they were trying to swim against it instead of allowing themselves to flow through it because it's there anyway. You're not going to be able to fight it. And so that's what I get this sense with human design, that it's like if we've been swimming against the riptide, this will allow us to just flow so much better and easier in our lives. And how you do anything's how you do everything. So if you apply this at work, my gut says you'll learn how to apply it at home too. And Mel, has that been the experience for you? I'm sure this was very impactful in the work that you do and even changed the way that you do work with clients, but has this also filtered into other aspects of your life?
Oh, absolutely. I use it to help my parenting. I know my son's chart. I use it to help support my partner. I know his chart. It is such a gorgeous piece of information that you can utilize even if you're not a practitioner, for you to just understand how you can best support somebody, not show them who they are. I mean, I do that with my son. We have really amazing conversations, but even in my parenting of, ooh, I was trained to say this, or my parents said this, to, oh, my son is a pure manifester. He needs to learn how to inform. He also is an experimenter. He has a line 3. So, with that said, I need to let him experiment to experience safely, talk to me about it, and then have that sounding board to see what steps he missed or to stop before he goes way too far and it's somebody else's support that he's looking for. So yeah, it's definitely filtered into every single thing. Even if I don't know somebody's chart, I know for myself how to best be in the space with somebody else that is the most profitable for me. Again, waiting to be recognized and invited, being that safe space. I'm that person where somebody just turns to me and goes, "Why did I just tell you all that?" Like, because you can, and thank you for sharing, and how can I best support you? And so again, it's just helping you be your best self in every situation and understand your true profitability in all those areas.
I love it. I love it. And what a gift for the people around you, to be in the space where you're living into that for yourself and also to know that for other people. So, Mel, thank you for sharing your wisdom with us today. And I can't wait for our listeners to reach out to you. And I'm sure you will have some that book those coffee chats with you and follow you on LinkedIn. And thank you for doing the work, not just out in the world, but for yourself. I mean, there is a ripple effect of good that happens when we are, again, holding that integrity space, that alignment within ourselves. So thank you for the work that you do.
Oh, well, thank you for that. And thank you for honoring me to be on your podcast today. I loved every second of it.
Thank you for listening to Conscious Conversations. We are so grateful that you've spent this time with us. And if you loved this episode, we invite you to consider liking, sharing, rating, reviewing the show so that more people can find us. And if you have the desire to connect with more like-hearted humans like you on this planet, come join us in the PFN community under Conscious Conversations.